Akedah, hands with hand and feet with feet. But in the temple, in the second temple, they will bind the hand, the forefoot, with the big foot and the other foot. In other words, they will bind them in the sideline and not in this way. And probably this is what is meant here. And maybe the answer is that we in modern surgery do bind the person operated because we are afraid that he would do an involuntary movement and destroy the surgery, right? So we may say that Abraham trusted Yitzchak that he won't run away, but he did not know how Yitzchak will react when he will see the knife. So he's binding him. This is for sure. And now we have again slow motion. וישלח אברהם את ידו, ויקח את המאכלת, and Abraham reached out his hand and took the cleaver. You see, there are many superfluous words here. Could have said that Abraham took the cleaver. No, he reached out his hand and took the cleaver because the Torah wants us now to concentrate on this horrible moment. And now, ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני, בוורס 11, ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים, ויאמר אברהם, אברהם, ויאמר, הנני. ויאמר, אל תשלח ידך אל הנער, ואל תעש לו מאומה, כי אתה ידעתי, כי ירא אלוהים אתה, ולא חסכת את בנך, את יחידך ממני. So an angel from heaven appears, and please don't ask me after the lecture, as always people do, why does not God speak to him directly but with the agency of an angel? I don't know the answer. Please believe me. So I don't know. But I know for sure that in only 2 stories in the whole Bible, an angel speaks from heaven. And this is in chapter 21 with Hagar, in chapter 22 with Abraham. But here there is an urgency. You could have said, you don't have time to speak with him directly, you send an urgent... but with Hagar there was no urgency. So this is another riddle which we cannot as yet answer. But anyway, the angel says, don't touch your son, with a double wording, Al tishlach yadcha el hanar, don't raise your hand to the boy, Ve'al ta'as lo me'uma, and don't do anything to him, which means, why does the angel call him Abraham, Abraham? At the beginning of the story there was one Abraham. What is better, a person who answers immediately or a person who answers after he's called twice? My children had to be called 5 times. And then they would say, Rega. Poor children, such a father. They would always say, Rega. It's very difficult to say Hineni, very difficult to say, I am at your service immediately. So why does he say, Abraham, Abraham? I don't know. Am I supposed to know everything? But I can suggest. And I have a suggestion, I don't hide it. When we are at a very difficult task, for instance, writing an article, we hope that the phone will call us. We hope to be disturbed. Then we have a digression. So Abraham is afraid of himself and says, maybe I'm not called, but I want to be called. Maybe I wait for this intervention. So I want to make sure that I'm called. So first Abraham, he doesn't answer. Second Abraham, he has to answer. And he says, Hineni, unbelievable. Once again he says, Hineni. What a person. So please recall our virtual blackboard. You have Abraham, you have God, you have Yitzchak, you have an arrow going upright and says, Hineni. Now we make another arrow. And we say, another Hineni. which means that Abraham is reinforcing his hineni towards God and saying, you want something from me? I'll do whatever you want. I'm totally yours. Hineni. And then God says, you are in this tension of a double commitment, reinforcing the one towards God. I'm relieving you from this tension. I don't want your son. Don't dare to touch him. Do whatever I say to him hineni 10 times a day. Be his father forever. Not because you relieved yourself from the tension, because I relieved you from it. You can be fully his father from here to your death. This is the beauty of this story. That Abraham was a full-fledged servant of the Lord. But God does not want child sacrifice. And this was only a testing. Now, a few sentences about the ancient setting. Abraham is, all his neighbors bring sacrifice, child sacrifice to their gods. And maybe Abraham had a feeling that they are more religious than he is. Because he is sacrificing animals and they are sacrificing children. And I don't have time to speak about child sacrifice in Old Canaan and in Carthago, where there were Canaanites. We have a whole burial of children who were sacrificed. Anyway, God says to him, from this day you know that you are as religious as your neighbors, because you were prepared to bring your child. But I am different from their gods. Their gods want children and I don't want children. Please note, this is the Akedah is not only revealing the greatness of Abraham. The Akedah is revealing the greatness of God. He says, I am different from all gods. I don't want children. It's forbidden to sacrifice children. Yirmiyahu says it very clearly. But it's written also in the book of Vayikra very often, don't bring child sacrifice. So we go through this testing of Abraham. See, Abraham is prepared to do it, but is forbidden to do it. Now he stands there, and he raises his eyes, and he sees the ram entangled in the bush. What does it mean entangled? The ram wants to clear himself off, but he's caught. Caught? By whom? So in good secular English you say by coincidence. In religious language you say he's sent by God. And he has now a visual revelation. Just like Hagar saw the water, he understands that he was lying. No, excuse me. He understands that he was saying the truth when he was lying. He says God himself will choose the victim, and he thought, I know, but I can't reveal it. Now it turns out to be that he did not know. Isn't that wonderful? He did not know. And God is saying, no, against your expectations, I want the ram, but the ram will be equal. If you sacrifice the ram, I regard it as if you had brought the greatest sacrifice which can be made. So forever, for all those who were a little troubled by my daring to say that Abraham was lying twice, I want to conclude and say, blessed is a person whose lies God turns to be true. Isn't that something? He says, we come back, and they surely will come back. He says, I don't know whom God chose, and surely he did not know. So blessed is Abraham. I think this is enough of the story, so we can now fold it up, and I'll read it very quickly in Hebrew and English. ויעלהו לעולה תחת בנו, and he's making a sacrifice instead of his son, which means in place of his son. ויקרא אברהם שם המקום ההוא אדוני יראה, אשר יאמר היום בהר אדוני יראה, and he called this place God will choose. Would you believe this? This is a play of word on Moriah. You ask yourself, why is this mountain called Moriah? Abraham says, you know why. I make a play, a pun. Because the essence of a temple, the essence of the holy place is that we do what God demands of us. God will choose the victor. אשר יאמר היום בהר השם יראה. In later times, it says, they will say this is a meeting place of God and man. Har Hashem. And now God is sending the messenger again. ויקרא מלאך אדוני אל אברהם שנית מן השמיים, ויאמר בי נשבעתי נאום אדוני, כי יען אשר עשית את הדבר הזה, ולא חסכת את בנך, את יחידך, כי ברך ברכך, בהרבה הרבה את זרעך, ככוכבי השמיים, וכחול אשר על שפת הים, וירש זרעך את שער אויביו, ויתברכו בזרעך כל גויי הארץ, עקב אשר שמעת בקולי. Now the great blessing which Abraham deserved after this ordeal, and the Lord's messenger called out to Abraham once again from the heavens, and he said, by my own self I swear. This is nice. God says, you got a promise of mine that it will be Yitzchak who will keep Yitzchak יקרא לך זרע. And the day afterwards I reconsidered my promise. Now I take an oath, God says. Don't be afraid, Abraham. I won't retreat from this promise. So God is swearing. He's taking an oath. And he says, so by my own self I swear, declare the Lord, that because you have done this thing, the Akedah, and have not held back your son, your only one, I will greatly bless you and will greatly multiply your seed and as the stars of the heavens and the sand of the shore of the sea, and your seed shall take hold of his enemy's gate, which means you will be victorious in military conflicts. And all this for what? Why have you been chosen? And all the nations of the earth will be blessed through your seed, because you have listened to my voice, which means that the choice of Israel is not for its own sake, it's for the sake of humanity. All the nations of the world will be blessed because you are such a faithful servant of the Lord. And Abraham returned to his lads, and they rose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt in Beersheba. The last verse of the Akedah is the very same last verse of chapter 21. In 21 it says, Vayagor Abraham, and his sergeant, he lived like a stranger in Beersheba. Now he is more deeply connected to the earth. But anyway, Abraham is again in a peaceful situation. Now, if you allow me some 5 minutes more, wow, there is, the chapters of the Bible have been, the divisions of the chapters have been done by the Archbishop of Canterbury in the 12th century. Stephen Langton was his name. And he had a good literary taste, but we don't have to, it's not Torah for us. So we take it if we want, if we don't take it if we don't want. He made a very great mistake, very famous, in the first chapter of the Torah. He cuts the Shabbat and puts it in the second chapter. But no Jew would have done this, because we understand that the Shabbat is the ending of the week of creation. Anyway, Stephen Langton didn't end this chapter with Vayagor Abraham, Vayeshev Abraham Beersheba, but he has an ending which is an anticlimax. names of people who were living in the neighborhood of Israel and saying that they were our relatives. And I won't read it in